Another thing is Muslims constant. So you said the Quran lacks a number of things, right? Just thinking ahead to some of the arguments Muslims will use against you. But you said the Quran lacks a number of things that they claim it does in the English translations. Like you mentioned, Aisha is not named; it's not mentioned. I mean, she's. I think her name is Aisha's name mentioned in the Quran itself.
No, no.
So how do they know that Muhammad had 11 wives or 14 wives or 22 wives, depending who counts it? And how do we know their names if these hadiths are unreliable? Even the Sahih ones are unreliable. If it's not in the Quran, how do we know anything about Muhammad's life?
Well, we don't. This is what I argue, is that we don't know much about Muhammad. We try to reconstruct his story from outside sources, from Christian and Jewish sources written outside of the Islamic narrative. Uh, but without the hadith, you do not know anything about Muhammad. And especially this woman, Aisha, she is probably not mentioned in any source in the 7th century or the 8th century or even the 9th century. So if Muhammad
Right.
had sex with this 9-year-old, I think everyone will say that this was a horrible thing to do. But they didn't. They mentioned Khadija. You will find Khadija all over the 7th century sources and the 8th century, but not Aisha. So maybe this whole Aisha story, it came in later with the Umayyads and the Abbasids. I don't know. Uh,
There is morally, I mean, which is supposedly the strongest argument as to why Muslims turn away from Islam when they learn the moral arguments against Muhammad. We do find that Muhammad seems to have gone out of his way to break every one of the Ten Commandments, and Aisha seems to be an example of him actually violating the one of the first Ten Commandments about one of the first commandments about thou shalt not commit sexual immorality. I know it's usually translated as thou shalt not commit adultery. It's actually thou shalt not commit sexual immorality. So, is this something that I mean? Would you what are your thoughts on that?
well, if you, as a Muslim or as a non Muslim, believe the standard Islamic narrative, then we can make this argument. This would be the David Wood style. You will talk about Muhammad and Aisha. But if you will look at it from a historical critique viewpoint, actually, you do not find Aisha. You do not find Zainab. You do not find these wives.
So what about the Ridda Wars, where she supposedly the Battle of the Camel? She had a camel and 10,000 troops, and they killed like thousands of people. So she was the head of an army that killed, wasn't it, fought against Ali and killed 10,000 people that day or something? So all
Yeah, but
fiction.
I'm not saying it's fiction. I'm saying
Mm.
it is not documented in anything outside of Islamic sources. And you have whole chronicles written by priests and stuff at these times, and they never mentioned such an event. So you are just as if it's someone standing on one leg. He has to have another leg so that he can walk properly. We do not have this other leg. We do not have historical evidence outside of Islam, outside of these sources, with
Hmm.
Ridda war, or even with the four Rashidun caliphs. You don't have these at all. You can't prove these exist without the
Yeah.
standard narrative.
And if Islam is the religion of peace, how come three of these falsely guided caliphs were murdered by assassination?
Yeah, that's a question that no one can answer. Maybe it's the religion of pieces. That's a better explanation.
Yeah, yeah. There's this question that came in here. I'm not sure. I'm eager to see how Saint Murad will translate the word al kalalat in Surah 4177. In Syriac, kalta means the bride.
Yeah,
So,
Kalala, it's the person who made the best work about this would be David S. Powers, who talked about Zayd ibn Haritha. This word I intentionally left it untranslated because it doesn't have any root in the Arabic. And to be honest, I don't recall right now how David
okay.
Powers has it. Yeah.
So, do you find that the Quran has a lot of Hebrew borrowings, Syriac borrowings, Coptic borrowings? Well, what's your because there's supposedly lots of references from the Greek. There might have been they might have been filtered through other languages, but the Quran has a number of borrowings from other languages, and in fact, it's a derivative of earlier languages, just like its script is a derivative of earlier Yemeni script. So it's not fully original.
Yes, of course. And when you read my translation, you will find that these words, I just have them as a question mark and they are in red. This is like, let's say 20%, close to 20% of the Quran. These words do not have root in Arabic. They do not have any meaning in Arabic. Any meaning that it has in Arabic now comes from a general guessing that is not rooted in linguistics. That's why it's not good enough. So I didn't put it in my translation.
Okay, hold on. You know what? Let me just show something while I'm here. This is Arthur Jeffrey. Just hide that comment. This is Arthur Jeffrey. So before we get into the this is the foreign words in the Quran by Arthur Jeffrey. The book is in the archives. So guys, just look for my Google archive in one of my video descriptions. And this Excel spreadsheet is also there. I mean, these are foreign words in the Quran. This is from the 1938 edition. Now, apparently, it's not entirely 100% up to date anymore. I know I found a few words, but Syriac, the largest number of words from a foreign language is from Syriac, then Aramaic, then Hebrew, then Greek, then Ethiopic, which is interesting because it's well ahead of the Coptic, which is down here, which means that there's a heavy influence from Yemen slash Ethiopia. You have a large influence from that part of the world, which is heavily ignored, and everyone focuses on north and northeast. But you've got this heavy influence, which tells you that it's not just from the words. They would have been borrowing from the culture, from the mythology, the folklore, the religious ideas, pagan ideas as well, which would have made their way in there. Was this your thoughts on this makeup of the language? Because there's something like 54 languages that 55 scholars have apparently identified in the Quran that are borrowings.
Yeah. Um, well, you see, there is no language that just came in from a vacuum. But this is the problem with Muslims. They say that it's pure Arabic. Actually, if you read this word Arabi in Syriac, it becomes something like clear or lucid. So it says, I'm in a very clear tongue. This would fix the issue. Because if it's written in Arabic, let's say I sent you a message and I say this message is in English. Why would I do that? It's clearly in English. What's the idea? But
Yeah,
just having it meaning the clear, it's very clear and having proof, then it fixes the issue.